like at full capacity.
Here we are. We're live.
Hello.
Hey,
We're live.
I'm back.
We're getting things happening week after week. This is just like, I'm not used to having new news week after week.
It's the end of the year, and people are like starting to do news because.
Oh, I see. They're thinking about next year.
Well, it's all for next year.
Sense.
Yeah, so everything's getting announced now because they're like starting in 2024. We're doing this.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we are actually trying something new here. Roll for combat. First, we're going to try to stay on topic. I know it's impossible until the end.
You have me here.
Well, we're going to do it. The other thing is we're going to probably start. Instead, what we used to do was have 15 minutes of banter, but because so much happened today and this week that we're going to get into it pretty quick. But before we get into it,
no time for small talk.
No time for small talk. First, do check out the Year of Legends. Comes out next week on Kickstarter.
Give them the link.
Well, you can just go. It's all over the place, but you can sign up right now. Year
can you kind of sign up on the Kickstarter page? I've been linking to the backer kit page.
Oh yeah, no. You know what? The backer kit page is better because then you sign up.
The backer kit page is better. Okay. Yeah, well I should be able to get them that link then too if you don't have it.
It's just I put it up. It's YOL.rollforcombat.com.
Oh, that's easy. YOL.rollforcombat.com. All right. So yeah, that's going to be on Tuesday. So check that one out for sure.
And so it launches on Tuesday the 24th?
Yes.
Okay, sweet.
Yes. And it's basically a continuation of the Year of Monsters, but we learned a lot with the Year of Monsters. And we also updated the Foundry module massively this week. In the last 2 weeks.
It looks so cool now with the new format on it. That's really awesome.
Well,
I feel like we're, from what I've seen, that it's more like I'm reading in like, Etheria Nix's archives and journals when I'm going through.
Yeah, like I even got the styling. So what happened is we did a big update. First, we implemented like dragons and Battles of Bestiary and Year of Monsters, and then we did Jewel the Indigo Isle, and I had to style that heavily. And then I was like, wait a second. And then I had to do World of Battle Zoo, which just came out. And then I stylized even more so. Then I went back to Jewel the Indigo Isle. That actually just updated yesterday. I forgot to mention that in the newsletter. That's completely been updated in new style, easier to read, easier organization. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm doing it for all of them. So we're going to go back, because then I went to Year of Monsters, and it doesn't use any styling. It just is the default Foundry style, and I'm like, yuck. So we went back and redid everything. So everything looks awesome, and now I'm going to do it I'll do it for dragons, I'll do it for Battles of Bestiary, I'll do it for everything. But yeah, we're making it actually looks like the PDF now. So, because people have been like, well, I just want to get the Foundry module, I don't, it's like whatever. And it's like, oh, it's not a difference. I'm like, well, I'm kind of making them look the same. So if you get the Foundry module, it's going to look like the PDF, and you get all the functionality of Foundry. So if anything, the Foundry modules is probably a little better, which actually will tie into what we're going to talk about today. So
yeah, I guess it does. It's a direct tie-in to the shifts of the industry and the way things are changing, which has led to what Wizards shockingly announced for Magic.
Yeah, well, we'll get into it, but real quick, do like and subscribe. And something new is we're putting out new clips for all of these shows.
Oh, that's great. I think that like a lot of our episodes, we have good roundtable talks, and we get the candid reactions and the response and the back and forth that everyone likes. But I know there are some viewers who would want to see the clips where it's just like Steven drops a pearl of wisdom that is like a 3-minute long soliloquy that is full of like insights about the way a certain thing works. And those clips I think are going to be great.
Full of garbage.
Yeah. I get a lot of requests for that as well on my channel, because my streams tend to go pretty long and there's a lot of tangents and stuff. But the problem is, finding the time to get in there and or hire somebody to to do it.
Someone volunteered to help out, and I was like, yes, please. I said, okay, you're gonna good. So with that, let's get into the first bit of news, big news item that just came out. I'm going to put it here. Paizo raises prices. And here's the link,
Yes.
everyone.
It's not as big for the industry as the Magic news. So we want to do the Magic news second because there's going to be a lot to say about that. But Paizo's just came out today, really just a few hours before this episode launched. And Steven had already made this episode about the price increases in Magic and had no idea that this was going to happen on the same day. But they wind up being related probably in some ways. So you can check that blog post. You'll see specifically that other than organized play, which always like weirdly had a very, very low cost compared to its amount of page count compared to everything else that Paizo put out, that nothing digital, nothing PDF other than organized play matching up with other things has increased. But instead, physical products are all going up. And they're becoming, they're being changed so that instead of line by line having prices, that'll be based on page count that they have prices. And these page count prices are being raised to really about the same level that the Wizards of the Coast D&D prices have been raised. So to give you a very concrete example, when the Lost Omens line was originally created, which was back in when did that all start?
Probably 2019, right?
2019, right? It's been a while since we launched that. So when it was originally created, the 128 page Lost Omens cost $35. Then they went up to $40, and that's what they've been at for a little bit. And during the pandemic, all the price increases, but the prices have been going up and up and up, and even recently went up by a bunch in certain ways. I mean, the prices for the cost of like printing and shipping, and so now it's gone to 45. So it was 40 and has gone to 45, and it was 35 like quite a few years ago before any of this stuff happened. A 192 has gone up to 60, which is exactly the same as the Big B Giant book for Wizards, which is also 192. 256, which recently we saw that Rage of the Elements, which was 224 pages, I believe. Let me make sure about that. Yes, which is exactly in between these two categories. 256 is 70 and 192 is now 60. So you would expect that if Rage of the Elements had this new pricing scheme, since it's exactly in between, it would probably be 65 since it's halfway in between. It was 55, which was actually the same as Dark Archive and had not increased since a few years back. And they are keeping the core at the original core price because core has, if you look at core rulebook for Pathfinder 2E or 1E, you would always be like, this doesn't make sense. Its page count to price ratio is really very, very inexpensive per page, and making a new game system is harder than anything else that you do. But that's because it's a loss leader. More people with that book are playing, and then they're in the ecosystem. They're making the game more vibrant and enhancing the community, and that adds value, even if they're taking a loss on that particular book.
Let me give an overview real quick. So
that's my overview for the prices. I did an analysis of how it was changing.
Here, let me give the overview of what Paizo is doing. They did it in their blog post, but I'll give you the little bit higher level overview. The price is almost all, I think it's all for only print products right now.
Yes, only print went up except for organized play, which previously had been a very depressed price compared to all the other PDFs for their length.
We have flip maps are going up to $20, which is an increase by $3. We have flip map multi-packs, which are going up to $30, which is a $5 increase. You have the adventure paths, which are 96 pages, soft cover. Those are going up to $30. I remember when they were 17. And that was
a long time ago.
I know, but still, that's $3.
It's only going up $3 on the adventure paths.
10%. Then pocket editions are going from $27 to $35, but the big ones are the hardcover. And what they were doing beforehand is they were doing it kind of not by page count, but believe it or not, by the line, because the Lost Omen lines were slightly different prices
Yes.
than the core lines. So
it was the line, and then with weird changes if it was if it was a different length than usual for that line.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It was a little weird. Now
it wasn't standardized.
It wasn't standardized. So we tried to go back and look at the pricing, but here's the deal: 128 page book is $45. 192 page.
It was $40 just before this, and it started at 35.
It was 35, then 40. Now it's 45. 192.
It was 40 for the last few years.
192 page book, which really is, not that big. That's a $60 book now. That's $60. Now, these books weren't even above $60 until, WoTC, they were the ones that drew the line and said, okay, we're going from 50s to 60, and that was for pretty much all their books. And now,
these are for print products.
I know, but still,
it's increasing.
That's a lot.
I mean,
in my
how much has it cost? Has the cost increased to
I'll explain.
Printed?
I'll get into that because I know.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's raised prices.
Well, but a 256 page book is $70, and the real wow to me is a 304 page book with a map is $80. Let me tell you something.
I don't think that's that outrageous.
The Jewel of the Indigo Isle, 430 pages.
Well, I think the point is right. I think
we know that you made the Jewel of the Indigo Isles low.
I know, but I want to say I actually.
But I think the bigger question is right. Obviously, there's market forces at play here, and I'm sure Stephen will go into them. I think the real question is right. You're asking your consumer base to absorb these cost increases. Now, that cost increase could be completely "quote unquote" warranted because of cost in your production, or cost of your labor, cost of your shipping, cost of your printing. But the other thing is, it could be that people are trying to take more profit. But regardless of whatever your reason is, you're asking your customer base to absorb more of the cost. Mm-hmm. However, are people in a position to do that? And we know that wages have been fairly flat. Inflation is a thing, it's arguably stagflation. And I think the problem that Paizo has, as opposed to maybe the Wizards of the Coast, is in theory, obviously Lost Omens has a lot of content that is not available on something like the Archives of Nethys. But this is a game that basically says, hey, look, all of our stuff's for free, or you can go get these PDFs, which are much lower priced, or you can get the Foundry module. It'll be automatically updated and you don't have to pay anything for it. And it's like, does this price people out of physical product? And is that what they're trying to do? I mean, that seems kind of backwards, right? But
no, I don't.
Granted, I've always argued that these books are way too damn cheap anyway.
They are. And I have argued that before this, and I'll argue it again. Not that they're too cheap for you who's watching this to buy. I know that it could still be hard to buy sometimes.
Absolutely.
But for the amount of cost of the art, the cost and effort of the writing, which is much more difficult than certain other books that are written because you need technical writing skills and technical editing and development, the cost of printing and the cost of shipping, the amount that it has gone up compared to inflation before these last few years when everything got wild and they've raised it a bunch of times, is that actually some of those early products for D&D where it costs more, even when you're not taking into account inflation, which is totally wild to me. I've discussed this before on this show, so I'm not going to get into it lengthily again. But the main point is just that the print products have a lot of issues with, and even the PDFs, there is at least an upfront cost for that art and for that writing. But with the print products, there's a lot of other additional issues that keep getting more and more expensive.
So I'm going to defend Paizo because I know what these things cost, because I just got quotes back from my printer today and I couldn't believe how high they were. And I've been printing.
How much had it raised since Battle Zoo Bestiary Strange and Unusual to World of Battle Zoo Indigo Owls, which was only 2 months later? How much did it go up?
Well, overall, between now and the last 2 years, it's gone up about 30 to 40%.
40%?
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Which is a lot. And the reasons
That's a lot.
I know that's a lot. I mean, paper has gotten extremely expensive. There's two reasons. One, paper's gotten very expensive, and shipping containers. So here's what happened. And if everyone remembers, during COVID, there was a crisis. A shipping container is those big containers you see, that hold, they're like 40 feet by, what are they, like 10 by 10 by 40 or something? And you just put as much as you can. A shipping container used to cost about $1,500 to $2,000 per container. During the COVID crisis, because they weren't shipping them back, I won't get into it, they went up to $20,000 per container, and it was a real problem. Well, there's no more container shortage. So what did the price go down to? $6,000. Why is it $6,000? It shouldn't be $2,000 or $1,000 or $1,500. Well, I'll tell you why. Because there's only 3 companies in the world that own all those containers, and if they decide to put a bottom on it, because it actually goes into an auction system. This is all automated. There's an auction system in the back end where you auction and get the containers. So it's whatever the market will bear, but there are artificial factors. And the thing is, it's not going down. So suddenly containers that cost $1,000, $2,000 are now $6,000. And I'll tell you, some of the really big box stores like Walmart and Target, they have their own ship now. They bought their own ships and their own containers. They don't even use. And I'll tell you why, because I was talking to my warehouse. They sometimes book passage on those ships. I sometimes get on the Target ship, get my stuff over here.
Pretty sweet.
It's gotten so expensive that these companies bought their own ships. They don't even use other people.
Right. And so to your point, the shipping costs, at least for the container, may have tripled, but it's not like everybody's wages tripled.
Right.
It's not like if you were making $40,000-$50,000 a year, you're suddenly making $150,000 a year.
Although some wages have gone up. Specifically, we know from, if you look at the openings posted at Paizo job openings recently after the union compared to the openings that were posted before the union in the public postings, those Paizo is now paying more, which is good.
Yes.
For their staff. It is closer to what someone with that amount of technical skill should be earning. And that is another cost, though, from the perspective of the company.
Absolutely. Paizo has to make that up somehow. And yes, they could arguably cut into their margins, but I'm assuming that their margins aren't so big and thick and fat that they have a lot of room for that. And
as far as I can tell, they aren't. Just based on my knowledge of which is always sketchy because people didn't say exactly what, but based on like the general idea, when like someone moved to Wizards of the Coast and they got their new wizard salary, and then an executive at Paizo be like, that's more than me, or something like that. And some other statements that people were making, I don't get the idea that that Paizo is like squirreling away tons of hidden money that they're just giving only to the top. I really do think that they are.
No, look,
they're working hard to make books and have a profitable company, and also that's what they're getting at.
Look, books cost more. Paper costs more, printing costs more, shipping costs more. Everything's going up. It's not going to go back down.
Right, but and that's all fine. But remember, these are not, I should say, these are discretionary goods. These are discretionary purchases that people are making. This isn't like your gas bill or your grocery bill, or your daycare bill, right? These are these are optional purchases. And as everyone loves to point out, most of us have a veritable library of books, whether digital or physical. And if push comes to shove, it's like, will this affect people's buying habits? And I already saw people in my own community here at Night's Last Call that were basically saying like, I might not buy the physical remasters, and this is before they announced the price increase. And so going forward, meaning like after the remaster, not necessarily the core, but like, future Lost Omens or future, like I might just get the pocket edition, or I might just get the PDF. I'm mostly playing on Foundry these days. My books are almost eye candy at a certain point.
Well, remember I said just as little as last week that books were going to become collector's items, hard physical books. And
I mean, at $100 basically for a hardback, it kind of feels like a collector's edition.
Correct.
Right? I mean,
so think about let's talk about how this transitions into the big topic as well, because we're talking about books being collector's edition. We're talking about the way that this is going to impact game stores. But what about Magic the Gathering, which is also printing things out? It has some of these same shipping and printing costs, and is something that is the lifeblood of game stores. Like pretty much every game store, or most game stores that I know, that I've actually talked to someone about it.
Right.
Like their Magic is their life.
Hold on,
most game stores are Magic the Gathering stores, and everything else is just window dressing.
Let's start this topic off properly. I'm trying to do something, trying to get organized here. So
let's do it. That's great.
The big news this week was that Wizards of the Coast is changing how they are distributing and printing Magic the Gathering boosters. And I know Derik warned me that he wanted to go off on this topic. So I'll let Derik handle it. Yeah. I have some very interesting topic about this or information about this, but let's hear what you have to say.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of facts.
Give the overview. Give what's happening.
So the overview is that for the longest time, for like 25 years, you had booster packs, which is how you got new cards of Magic the Gathering, and that was how the sets were released. These are the ubiquitous packs of cards that you would get. And inside those packs of cards would be 10 commons, 3 uncommons, and 1 rare or mythic rare. Mm-hmm. All right. And the idea was that you were boosting up your collection. You were adding more cards to your collection. But more than that, this was also sort of the reason that a very popular format of Magic the Gathering developed, which was called booster draft, because you were drafting from booster packs, and in which people open up a pack of cards, they take one, they pass it around. And it was like that forever, and it was great, it was perfect. Now, having said that, I will be the first to admit that I love limited. I love draft. I love sealed. It's one of my favorite ways to play the game. But secondly, I will admit this. When I played constructed Magic, which is to say I played standard or I played modern, and I was really, really big into standard, booster packs were a horrible way to build up your collection. Because by and large, you didn't need all those commons and you didn't need all those uncommons. What you really needed was the rares. And so you were kind of buying the whole pack of cards and kind of throwing the other ones away. And so at some point, the focus of Magic the Gathering shifted from sort of the low-level competitive player to sort of the more high-level premium player who is more interested in sort of collector's editions of things. And they introduced 2 new products to the shelves of FLGSs, your gaming stores. They introduced, so you had your draft booster, which is as I described it. Then they introduced a set booster. And the purpose of the set booster was, now it's still just full of cardboard cards, I cannot stress this enough, is it was a more expensive product that contained more rares, great for building up your set, and also contained foil and special premium cards that you could not get in the draft booster sets. So this was a premium product aimed at kind of collectors markets and arguably towards people who are trying to build out their set. Now, it wasn't too that long after that they introduced a third type of pack, which is called the Collector's Pack, which is an even more premium product. It's sort of like the Anchor, right? Where you can get the very, very most chase cards. So, for example, the One Ring, right, was found in Collector's Packs. And these could sometimes be $20, $30 plus a pack for these Collector's Packs. And these have a literally very super hyper exclusive foils and rares, very much the premium chase and chase. But the word on the street from Wizards of the Coast is that once they introduced these 3 tiers of booster packs, it created a lot of problems because number one, it confused customers because now there were 3 different types of card packs on the shelf for you to buy. Number 2, when people figured out what was inside of them, according to Wizards of the Coast, nobody wanted to buy booster draft packs anymore. They only wanted to buy set packs or potentially collector's packs, but more than not set packs. And they said, according to their data, it was a wide margin. And if you are a store owner, then this becomes a problem because, well, which one do I stock? Do I stock the one that is, made for the, booster draft and limited and sealed, or do I draft this product that is actually selling? So a lot of gaming stores, apparently, were basically just ordering this set booster. So Wizards of the Coast decided to do us all a favor, and they're basically getting rid of the booster draft pack. And there will now only be 2 types of pack, the ultra premium collector's pack and what we used to be called a set booster and is now called a play booster, which will be more expensive and it will contain more rares, but it will also, in my personal opinion, weaken and create problems for the draft format of Magic the Gathering. But it is very clearly obvious that that is not what they care about. They care about selling these physical products to the people who do want to buy them, which is typically EDH or Commander players who want super ultra premium chase versions of their cards. They don't even want the rare if it's just generic. They want the really awesome alternate art reverse holo, and that's what they want to do. And so this is, in my opinion, an example of Magic the Gathering sort of trampling on the DNA of their game in order to increase sales. And they, of course, they're saying, well, you can still draft with these, but I won't go into the details yet unless you ask me to. But there's a reason why a lot of that is problematic for draft. So,
and aren't they there? It's
kind of interested in that, but let's have a little bit more.
I wanted to say, aren't they going down? It's going down from 16 cards to 15 cards, I believe, in the packs.
The set boosters were typically smaller because they were just like, a handful of rares, basically, and usually some alternate art uncommons. You didn't have, because again, if you buy Magic cards and you're trying to build up your set, after you buy a box or two of Magic the Gathering card packs, which is there's 36 packs per box, you've basically got every common in the set. You've got every uncommon in the set. You really don't need any more of those cards. You're really just trying to get rid, and they literally just become, people call them draft chaff. It's just like chaff, it's just like garbage that you throw away. And so, when we get together as a group and we draft, at the end of the draft, there's usually a stack of Magic cards that is like, above your head, if you were to put it in one pile, that just gets literally thrown away. It's worth nothing to nobody. Well, it's a bunch of one penny commons.
And from what I heard also, and this is important, it sounds like the packs are getting, I think, one card smaller, and they're increasing the prices, which is
well. So that's the other side of it.
It's a big deal.
The other side of it is, okay, fine, you want to combine, but how convenient for you right now at a typical game store when you do a draft, you buy 3 packs, and then everybody buys 3 packs, and there's usually a little premium.
And it's
if
usually
there's like
$15,
and it's usually, I mean, on average,
20 somewhere between
you're gonna be paying around $4 a pack. And there might be a little bit of a premium put on top of that because there's a prize pool and they want to put cards into it. But you're paying $4 a pack, which means if you draft, it's going to be $12-15. When we draft up at my store, we do what's called a team money draft, which means it is a team of 3 versus a team of 3. You all draft together, but you alternate your team, their team, your team, their team. And the winning side, the team that wins the most matches, gets to keep all the cards, and the losers have to pay for all the cards. So that means that the cost to the loser is about $25. And that's because you're buying 6 packs. But this price increase could take that from, who knows? I mean, they have said the price will go up. Will it be $5 or $6 a pack? Which suddenly means that the base cost for a draft could almost double. And you might see suddenly drafts going from $15 drafts to $20 drafts, $25 drafts, even potentially $30 drafts. And I think this will just basically completely push people out of that format entirely. And it feels to me like they are just trying to, kill off that format.
Well, and I saw there's a couple things that I see in chat. There's a super chat that said from Kite the Twin Blade said that draft format ruined Magic 12 years ago because they pivoted hard to draft as their priority and it ruined the game.
Well, I completely and 1000% disagree with you on that. Number one,
draft disagree as well because I love draft. And
number one, draft has been around since literally basically the beginning of the game. Yeah. So it's been around like that forever. Secondly, they used to literally have limited Pro Tours and limited Grand Prix, and they cut way, way, way back on that as time has gone on. So if anything, they have moved further and further away from the draft experience. So I don't know that I agree with that.
And Einor, who had something that matches what you were saying, Derik, is that draft play is basically dead in their city, and their stores banded together to organize a draft night when a new set releases. But other than that, it's dead.
Right.
Yeah, but that's rare. I mean, a lot of these stores literally survive on Friday Night Magic, and a lot of these stores, it's a way from them to move. It's way from them to move inventory. It's a way from them to get people in the store who will stay there all night on Friday night, play 1, 2, maybe even 3 drafts. They'll buy other things.
But I'll be honest with
food.
You. But I'll be honest with you. Like that's not happening now either. A lot of the stores. I mean, I can be honest with you, on any of the 3 stores that I frequent, and I know these owners very well. One of them was on our show as in our Root actual play.
Wow.
They won't fire they couldn't fire a Magic the Gathering tournament or draft if they wanted to. But sales have been up. People are literally just coming in. They are buying boxes of set boosters. They're buying boxes of collector's boosters, and they're leaving. They're walking out the door. Or they're opening them. They're taking out the ultra premium cards that they want. They're adding them to their commander decks. And then they're sitting at a table in the back, paying no money to the store and just playing their commander decks. So, you know, I don't necessarily know that I quote unquote fault Wizards of the Coast for that. The draft format is quote unquote dying. And I do understand that there's been a change in the demographics of how people want to play Magic the Gathering. For example, limited draft is a very skill testing, hard format that, you know, I think a lot of people feel very intimidated by, and it doesn't have that same kind of fun, yuckity yuck, you know, casual atmosphere that, Commander has. And the game has definitely moved more, you know, moved away from its competitive roots and moved more into the casual arena. But I think this is just kills it off. I mean, like they say that they're trying to do this to quote save draft. Mark Rosewater even said, like in a reply on Twitter, he's like, well, he's like, we're doing this to save draft. If we didn't do this, draft would be dead in a year. And
yeah, I'm gonna go into. I will answer your question a little bit later because Magic loves limited. They love draft, and I'm gonna say not only do they love it, but why they love it and how this is the first step of them killing the game stores because people think it was clickbait. It was not clickbait. Trust
Before
me.
you give them that,
let's be clear.
I'm going to get into that much later.
Yeah,
it was clickbait.
Before we get to that, we have one more super chat,
yes.
And I actually have a question for my own edification about a thing you said about Friday Night Magic. So the super chat is set design pivoted to prioritize draft viability rather than constructed. I've been around since alpha. They were open about it. Says Kite the Twin Blade in a response to Derik.
That actually
my question.
And I still disagree with that. So.
Well, no, that's true because I listened to Mark Rosewater's podcast. And he did say the way they were making the decks is that they were making them. I wouldn't say they were prioritizing draft viability rather than constructed. I would say that they were making it more workable for draft. I think they were trying to do both. I don't think they were trying to have one better than the other. But he used to say that on the podcast. Like he actually would come out.
You know, and I don't know if Kite the Twin Blade is maybe talking about like New World Order, but like so New World Order was this concept that like Wizards of the Coast came out with, where they basically said like commons are going to only have they have a ceiling on how complex the mechanics on a common can be. Right. And an uncommon raises that level, and a rare or mythic rare, you know, basically, if you can almost think of it as how many rules, elements, or words are going to be on this card. There's sort of a cap limit put to that. But I don't think that was about draft viability. It was about like just making the game more accessible to newer players. As for draft viability, I mean, the fact of the matter is the introduction of the mythic rare, which creates a super bomb heavy environment, in my opinion, was probably the worst thing for booster draft, because the thing about booster draft that can be very problematic is sometimes somebody opens up an amazing, incredible card, and basically you're playing in an environment where if you know you're limited in what you can bring because it's just whatever you drafted. If someone plays this completely bonkers, insane card, sometimes the game just ends on the spot.
Oh yeah, and I was playing when I did a draft, a tournament. And I got, was it Plague Rats? You know, the one that can duplicate itself. And that was the end of that tournament.
I mean, Plague Rat is, I mean, I think you're thinking of Pack Rat.
Oh, Pack Rat. I meant Pack Rat, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, Plague Rat's the one that's like star. And gets stronger.
Pack Rat.
Yeah,
and
Pack Rat.
Forget
Pack Rat is I don't know if you know what Pack Rat is, Mark, but Pack Rat is a star. But you can discard a card and pay a mana cost, to basically turn any card in your hand into also a Pack Rat. So basically, every card once you play a Pack Rat, every card in your hand becomes a Pack Rat. And suddenly
you have one Pack Rat, it's the 1/1. And if you don't kill
think that was
thing,
from after I stopped playing.
Then you have 2, and then it's a 2/2. Then you have 3, and each are 3 3s, and then that's it. Right. It's like, oof.
Now, I do agree with Kite the Twin Blade there. They destroyed Type 2, which most people call standard.
Yes.
They did destroy Type 2, and EDH Commander is all that has left, and that I completely agree with, because I do think, Kite, that the design of the sets moved, not only did it move away from prioritizing limited, I think it moved away from prioritizing Type 2 and standard, and instead really just embraced what cards can we put in this set that Commander/EDH players will buy, because those are the people who are buying cards.
So what was your question, Mark?
So my question is that when you were saying earlier, one of you two, I think it was Steven, was saying, well, they're phasing out draft, but it'll be okay because they have Friday Night Magic. Didn't we just last week say that they got rid of the people who were running Friday Night Magic?
Oh yeah, Friday.
So now they don't have that either, right? Or am I mistaken about that?
No. And I told Steven, like, look, when I play draft, when I do play, it's Fun Fridays. When my gaming group, my TTRPG gaming group, can't get together, and I'll go up to the local store and I'll team draft with my crew of people. These are people I go to Vegas with. These are my crew. Crickets. The only people in that store is a small group of people playing Flesh and Blood in the back. Okay. 5 years ago, okay, certainly 10 years ago, but 5 years ago, they had to sometimes do standing room only. You know what I mean? Like, in order to play games, like there wasn't room for chairs. Like, they would have 50 people in there playing a Friday Night Magic, which was Type 2 constructed. Or at the other store over here by me, they would do Friday Night Magic as draft, and they would still get 30, 40 people. So, I mean, there's macroeconomic factors. There's obviously a lot of stuff going on around that to the game. But the fact of the matter is, over the last decade, certainly the last 5 years, the focus of the game has shifted completely away from these other formats towards Commander. And the fact of the matter is, the Commander format is it's full of, I don't know, I feel like it's a cash cow. And I think, they are just trying to phase out these products that don't make them a lot of money. And here's the thing, it's all just cardboard, people. I get it. A foil card might cost half a yuan more to print than a not foil card. But I mean, by and large, these premium packs are not full of premium product. They're just full of the same cardboard that you're buying anywhere else. But Magic the Gathering, Wizards of the Coast can kind of say, but no, you are getting something for your money. This isn't just a price increase. You're getting more. And it's like, yeah, but the only reason I'm buying this product is because you're getting rid of the other product that I would otherwise buy. So don't act like you're doing me a favor. And I kind of went off on a rant about this, but I also personally think that these new packs will make for a much worse draft experience, because you are increasing the volatility and variability of these drafts, because the packs will now contain more rares. Rares, in my opinion, can be problematic for limited. And their response, by the way, to this is they say design is thinking about that in the design of their sets, and they are going to create more answers for rare bomb cards at lower rarities. But let me kind of translate that to TTRPG speak.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
In TTRPG speak, this would be like saying, yes, we're giving all of the PCs more hit points, but to balance that, we're giving all the monsters more instant death spells. Right? It's not a good solution.
Actually, even better. It's like, instead of monsters critting on a 20, they crit on a 17, 18, 19, or 20. Like, right. Wait a second, you gave us more HP, but now the monsters do way more damage.
To me, that sounds more like you're saying, okay, yeah, there's going to be some wild, out of control stuff where a boss or anything gets taken down by a one-hit kill spell. So we're giving legendary resistances to all of them so that they can't be taken down by those weird.
You're not getting the resistance.
So this is a situation of not getting more HP.
Yeah.
Well, because more hit points being the default is something that's reliable, whereas they're trying to deal with a higher chance of some big game-ending thing by putting weird.
Right now,
weird solution into
when you open a draft pack, and I'm ignoring the chance for a foil rare, I know that those exist. Okay, but there's only one card that could be a rare. And rares, now there are sets where there are some really powerful uncommons. They call them mythic uncommons, but you're only getting one chance at a rare or a mythic rare. And that means that in the total draft, the number of these is fairly limited. And the fact of the matter is there are many games of Magic the Gathering that are won or lost on whether or not you have this really cool, amazing card. Or if it's in your deck and you draw it, you win. If you don't draw it, maybe you don't. But now that draft is going to be relying on play boosters, and play boosters can have up to 4 rares. And so not only is it variable, which just increases the volatility, but it also means that the average aggregate swinginess and power level of all these cards has gone way up.
Right.
Way up.
And like, how will you know if you're doing a tournament for draft, whether you need to put in the counters to the rares that are in there that are probably not necessarily a great card other than that it counters these weird rares? I mean, I guess if it was a draft where people were like then drafting the cards and you saw that somebody got it, how much of a sideboard can you even build for that though?
Well, and that's why they're saying that their answer is, well, we're aware that the future sets, starting with something at Karlov's Manor, something like that, next year, the design team knew that the new packs are going to have 3 or 4 rares, and so they are putting more answers to those bombs at like the common and uncommon slots. But that creates almost an opposite problem, because now the game becomes even more swingy. Because now, if everybody has all these options to just kill everything very efficiently and quickly, then if you don't have the bombs in your deck, you're definitely not going to win. And so it's like...
Unless like the answers are specific to the rares, in which case then, when a draft, how likely are you to get the exact right answer from your commons? Especially to the rare that Steven drew when he drew some ridiculous rare.
Right. And Quagmire, that is true. I mean, look, I'm not arguing that yes, everyone has the same number of chances to get the rares, but I do think that like it's you're talking about taking the draft format. I think you're making it more random. You're increasing the price of it, and I think that all in all, that's just bad for the format. And again,
we had a different super chat.
All right,
it was from Kite again. Saying that they play Commander EDH because it's replacement for Type 2 extended they killed. They don't want to burn 3,000 a year on drafts, pre-con, FRMT, dead, other than EDHC.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't play Type 2 anymore. I don't play Type 1.5. I don't even play Type 1. I sold my Black Lotus and my Mox. I don't even play Vintage anymore. I sold most of my Legacy decks. I certainly don't play Type 2. And I used to be a Type 2 player, where when a new set would come out, to the point, I didn't buy the cards. I would go to my game store and I would say, I want to buy from you. They would give me a 1,000 count box, the white baseball boxes. And I would say, before the set came out, I said, on release day, I want to buy from you 4 copies of every card. You open whatever you need to open, and take the duplicate, sell them on your online web store. I will pay whatever the market value is, and I used to pay anywhere from $500 to $1,000 every time a new Magic the Gathering set came out, just so I could keep these cards, which, by the way, would be illegal in 15 to 24 months, and it would have their price essentially tank at that time. But I would hold them to the very end because you needed them to compete. So it was extremely, but I was putting a lot of money into the ecosystem because I needed to, quote unquote, keep up with the format. But I don't play that format anymore because they killed constructed Magic. So
very long story short, they are making the game a little more swingy for drafts. They are making less options for stores, which is good because they don't have to buy as many. They don't have to buy as many SKUs.
It reduces the number of SKUs.
Yeah, they don't have to buy as many boxes. They can sell 1 product or 2 products, and so it's good
that's
for
good
them.
for stores. Why is this bad for stores?
I'll explain in a second. And they're also raising the price of Magic and reducing the cardboard. So that's the real killer. That's the real piece in there that everyone seems to be ignoring. Is that Magic is basically increasing the pricing and reducing their costs because they want to make more profit. That's really the thing. So let's get to the heart of why some people are here. By the way, I see we have a lot of people. If anyone has questions, feel free to ask them. We'll answer them. Super chats are always answered first. But let me get into it. Okay. So Magic is raising prices, reducing cardboard. And this is a good thing for game stores right now. A lot of game stores seem to be kind of happy with it because it's going to reduce their inventory, or at least make their inventory easier to manage. They don't have to buy 3 or 4 different products of the same Magic set. And I was thinking about this a lot over the weekend because I was thinking about this news. I was thinking about what is the end game, because I keep thinking back to one thing, and that's the OGL. I keep going back to that because why were they doing this? Because if you think about the OGL, what they were trying to do is corner the market and get rid of third parties and secondary markets. Now, why would you want to get rid of a secondary market or third parties? Very simple. It's because Magic doesn't make any money, or in this case, Hasbro does not make any money on secondary markets or third markets in any way, shape, or form. They just don't. They only make money once. They only make money when they sell the cards. Now, stick with me. One thing I've said many, 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 many times in the show is that if you follow the video game world is always 5 to 10 years ahead of the TTRPG world. What is happening right now in the video game world is what's going to happen in Magic the Gathering and TTRPGs in 5 to 10 years. And I'll explain how it's going to all... Let me get through my rant and then we'll get into it. 10 years ago, at E3 in 2013, Microsoft said the Xbox 360, I believe it was going to have no disk drive. Like, it was going to be all digital. And everyone freaked out. Like, the world went crazy. Like, Microsoft was going to go, oh, you don't really need discs. It's like, that's, and people like lost their minds. They're like, how do you trade games? Because used games, aka secondary market, is a huge deal. Like, people would buy their games, play them, and then sell them back to GameStop. Okay, so secondary market. Now, the game companies, and back then I was really heavy into the video game world, both professionally and, non-professionally, they hated this. They hated this a huge amount because they hated that they didn't get a piece of the secondary sales. So what they did is they came out with downloadable content because, okay, at least they can try to sell it to you more than once, or at least they can sell you pieces of the same game over and over again, and those can't be traded. Those are something, okay, yes, you might be able to trade the game, and they also had this statistic that the average game, it was kind of crazy back in the heyday, like in 2013, where like they would actually get to see on Xbox Live, they can see like, okay, this game, I'll just make up, game X has been sold 1 million copies. We've sold 1 million copies of this game. But yet, over the course of its lifetime, 3 to 4 million people have played the game. That, when people went nuts, the game companies went insane because they're like, oh my God, that is so many lost sales. We are literally losing millions of sales because people are buying the games, selling them to GameStop, and then GameStop resells them.
Right, GameStop is getting that capital.
Right, and they even had this. They even toyed with this idea of that. Well, you have to reactivate the game if you get the disc, and that died really quickly. Now let's cut 10 years into the future, which is today. Few things happened. The next Xbox Series X for next year, no more disk drive. The new PlayStation 5 disk drive is going to be optional, where you can buy it and attach it later. And Best Buy, one of the biggest retailers in the world, is no longer going to be selling movies, DVDs, or music in their stores, physical copies, starting in 2024, because, to quote them, the industry has changed. Everyone's going digital. And rumor is that the Xbox is next. They just say they're still going to sell Xbox, Nintendo, and PlayStation games, but the rumor is Xbox is next, and they're going to get rid of those discs too.
So what the fuck would Best Buy sell?
I don't know. That's a whole other topic. But the point is, that is big news. So 10 years ago, the world was not ready for digital only, but it looks like the world is going digital only. And a lot of it has to do with who is becoming mature and getting into the workforce, which is Gen Z. And Gen Z is very used to digital only. My kids, my daughter literally just had her birthday yesterday.
Yeah.
And she's an adult now. And let me tell you, she doesn't buy anything. It's all digital.
I'll give you an example. I was having a conversation with my nephews. They are 16 and 14 or 17 and 15, something like that.
Mm-hmm. And
we were having this conversation, and it occurred to me, and we were talking, they have never owned music. They have always had their iTunes or their Apple Music, whatever. They listen to music, but they don't own a single. They've never owned, let alone a digital. They don't even own the quote digital copy, right? Let alone a CD or vinyl or whatever. Yeah. But they've never even owned that. They've just only basically used music as a service their entire life.
Yes.
And so yes, like they are used to not owning anything and having no claim to it.
Yes.
That if I stop paying this monthly fee, it goes away. And that's just completely normal to them.
Yep. So I was thinking about this heavily because the OGL, they were trying to get rid. If you look at that, what were they trying to do? They were trying to kill the secondary market. They wanted to own everything. That was really the point of the OGL. And if you did do something and you got too big, they wanted a piece. Heck, they wanted 25% of what you were selling. And that's
above a certain amount, which was a kiss of death.
It was a kiss of death. It didn't matter. They wanted to get rid of secondary market. They wanted everything to go through them. So I was thinking about it because now what are they doing with the online VTT is they already said they're going to have a marketplace. And use Steam as an example. Steam Marketplace, they make a fortune on Steam Marketplace. Steam Marketplace is you can sell digital copies of cards and collectible items, and Steam gets a piece. I forget if it's like 10 or 30%, but we'll just say 30% because that seems to be the standard for most of these companies. So they'll get a piece, and they get a piece of every sale. So even if it's a penny, they will get that fraction of a penny. They get every single sale. Steam is making money off that sale. So for D&D, it's coming, okay? I guarantee you in 5 years from now, when everyone's online playing D&D, and they have third-party marketplace where people can put up their own adventures and their own characters and their own animations, and you can buy that animation for $9.99 from DerikMelenda.com or whatever it's going to be. But they're going to get their 30%, and that's what they want. They don't mind the secondary market. They like secondary markets. They just want to own the secondary market and get a piece of every single sale. And that's where video games have gone, and that's where video games are right now. So how do you get it to Magic? What are you going to say?
I was going to say, so one thing though that I think should be pointed out to this is, again, I don't have specific numbers because I don't actually work at these stores, but let me tell you something. The secondary market for Magic the Gathering is pretty big.
Very big.
And a lot of these stores do a lot of the reason these stores are profitable is because they sell singles.
Yes.
And they don't even sell the singles locally, by the way. They sell them online. They sell them on things like TCG Player, particularly TCG Player, and these stores basically act as physical pawn shops to basically sort of accommodate the singles market. And you are talking about people buying a pack of cards, and this is where it becomes very difficult for Wizards of the Coast, because you're selling, even at a premium, you're selling a pack for $5, but you know that you put a card in there that some store owner or somebody's going to open and it's worth $70, but you're selling it for $5, and the store owner is going to get to keep that $70 when they sell that single online.
Yes.
So like that is if you're Wizards of the Coast, you're thinking like, why do these game stores get to make so much money off of the value of the product that we're printing?
Yes. And that drives them insane. Trust me. It's like they're sitting there thinking, okay, Magic just made $1 billion last year. If they did all the math and they figured out all secondary sales, it'd probably be worth $5 billion. Maybe more.
It might be a multiplier. Yeah, for sure.
It's
it's probably not orders of magnitude, but like, it's definitely.
They would have made a lot, especially if they're getting a cut, because all they want is the cut. They don't need to be the ones selling the cards. So how do they do this? Well, I'm thinking about it. A lot. I was thinking about a lot this weekend, and I came up with a concept, an idea, and let's see what people think. And I think it's out there. I think it's a little bizarre, but I don't think it's as bizarre as you think it is. So back in the day, when there was Magic Online, Magic and Wizards had this thing where they were really tied to the cards. And they were really tied to the cards to the point that Magic Online couldn't cost more than the physical cards. They didn't want to put the game stores out of business. They didn't want to make them compete, if you will, with Magic Online, to the point that, if you remember, that if you got a complete set of Magic,
you could redeem it.
You can redeem it.
You can still do that.
You can still do it, right? If you get a complete set of digital cards and you send it to Wizards, and then pay a small fee, they will send you back the physical cards as the set, and they remove it from your digital account. So how about this, Derik? Okay. What if they did the reverse? What if, now to stay with me here.
Okay.
What if they said, we are going to make the official marketplace for Magic the Gathering. We will make an online place where everyone can buy and sell cards. And all you need to do is you can take your cards, you can send them to us, whether it's a Black Lotus or a Mox or, just a Pack Rat, or anything. And we will give you on your account that same card, whether it's an alpha or a beta. And then the marketplace goes from a physical marketplace to a digital marketplace. So the value stays the same. And the only place you can get those cards is through the online marketplace. And as an incentive, if you send in cards for, say, the first year or something, they'll give you $1,000 worth of online credit, something for Magic Arena, where they build up the marketplace where people are transferring their physical cards onto the online marketplace. And then suddenly all the games become online, like the tournaments. If you watch Hearthstone or any of these others, when they're playing Hearthstone and these people have these tournaments, they're doing it on the computer because there's no physical Hearthstone. They're using their own decks. They're actually on their computers playing the game. So they can do that. In fact, they'll make it a lot easier. Said, okay, whatever decks you have, you literally give them the cards, and especially the pros, it's like, okay, here's your cards, here's your decks, and they're all online now. And then if you want to sell your Mox, you can sell it through our store, and we take a percentage. And voila! The secondary market now is being controlled by Wizards of the Coast and Magic. Your cards are safe forever. You don't have to worry about them getting lost in a fire mark. And the stabilization of the market can be handled by the online digital marketplace. And does this kill the stores? Sure. Sure, it'll kill the Magic stores, but really, that's a small price to pay for owning the entire industry, lock, stock, and barrel. And
yeah, someone in chat, Iron Chestnut and Ben Puffer both said it sounds like NFTs, and yeah, it does kind of sound like an NFT. And well, we know how much corporations and stuff love those things.
The thing with NFTs, and I agree, the problem with NFTs, and I'll tell you why NFTs don't work, is because there was no there's no value behind an NFT. Right. You know what also is completely digital and runs the world? It's this thing called the stock market.
Right. Okay. But no. You actually bring up an interesting point. It's one of the reasons why I never, and I always defended Magic the Gathering over other collectible things like baseball cards. Because I said at the end of the day, a baseball card is collectible and nothing else. It has no other value other than being a collection, right? And its value based on its perceived rarity or things like that. But Magic the Gathering, yes, it did have rarity, which in theory was a way to, keep limited fun and balance. But the truth of the matter is there was definitely an element of, gambling and searching for packs. But the fact of the matter is a Black Lotus may be $20,000. But it also does something in a game that people cared about, a game that people played for money, played professionally, or play often at their local stores. And Black Lotus is obviously being the most expensive example, but there was an idea of a reflection that the rarity of a card was in some fundamental way associated with the power or efficacy of that card in the game itself. And so there always felt like there was a little bit of like a baseball player is worth more money if they're a better player. And so, you could argue that you could trade baseball players amongst your teams, but you're buying something with your money. You're getting something for your money. It is a valuable asset to have, quote unquote, on your team. And so, yes, I do think that there is an element there where, the NFTs have value in this situation, because Magic the Gathering has kind of had NFTs for a very long time in the form of Magic the Gathering Online. And for those people who don't know, Magic the Gathering Online is usually referred to by people who play it as MODO. MODO. People have been playing around for a long time. And that's because the official name of Magic the Gathering Online was Magic the Gathering Online with digital objects. And the idea was these were essentially an early form of digital good that you owned, you could trade online with other players. There's even bots that you can, stores that you can sell cards from. So like these digital objects have been existing since 2002 or 3 or whatever, when Magic, when MODO came out. And so, this concept has kind of been around for a long time, but even that digital secondary market was never something that Wizard of the Coast really tapped into. Because I thought what you were going to say is imagine a world where where Wizards of the Coast just sells singles. Print on demand.
Well, they can do that too, but I think
and it would kill the secondary market. It would
then
kill the
have
secondary
the gotcha benefits of the packs.
But they can set the price.
Yeah, they're not going to do that
and make it ridiculous. They can say, "Yeah, we're selling Ragavans for $100." Because
they won't. But I'll tell you, I put it this way: you can go that route. You know who went that route? Professional sports, because professional sports. Remember this thing called scalping? It used to be illegal, and then professional sports decided. And then when StubHub came around, they went, "Hey, why not beat them? Join them!" And now they sell their own tickets on StubHub at inflated costs. So that's kind of like selling singles, but they probably don't want to kill the market, but they just want to control it. And you know what? It's going that way. Maybe it's going to take 5 years. Maybe it's going to take 10 years. Maybe it's going to take 20 years. But much like books, see, I connected it all. You see, much like books that have become collectible items, I think cards and the physical cards, they will still be around and people will still have them and they're still going to print them. But the vast majority of players by far are going to be playing Magic on Arena or playing it online, playing tournaments online, where you worried about, the Magic Guild? Remember, why'd they get rid of the Judges Guild? Well, you don't need judges when you're playing online because you have a judge. It's called the computer. Oh, what do you know? It's all tied together. They want to go all digital, okay? The printing is just going to keep going up.
I mean, the profit margin on a digital product is for them almost infinite,
Correct.
There obviously there's a cost associated with, having these things digitally maintained. But by and large, I mean, you are just putting that money directly into their pocket. Yeah. And, Ben's mentioning secret layers, which I was chatting about earlier. Secret layers are an opportunity where Wizards of the Coast will print literally not packs of cards, individual cards.
Right.
And they do it in a special format, and it's called a secret layer. But it is basically an opportunity for you to buy these cards, and you buy them directly from Wizards of the Coast. Mm-hmm. They ship them out to you directly, and in some cases, they reprint in secret layer. Usually it's a big deal is when Wizards of the Coast prints cards in a secret layer set that are, quote, worth money. Because it's basically Wizards of the Coast being able to take advantage of the secondary market, which is based on this concept of rarity, and basically say, yeah, we can print whatever we want, including these cards that are rare, but now we're selling them direct to you, the consumer. And of course, this is just a piece of cardboard. For us, printing a Black Lotus and printing a Llanowar Elf is the same cost.
Yeah.
But we'd be foolish to know that the one is worth a lot of money and one is not.
Yeah, and the point is that if it all goes online and people it's NFTs, let me tell you, the world economy, 90% of the world economy is all digital. Okay, there's no physical money.
Do you ever watch Tom Scott?
I don't think so.
He's a British guy. He has a YouTube channel that's been around forever.
No.
Well, there's this famous he was really excited, and he knew this. It was kind of part of the gimmick. He goes all over the world. There's this famous like flower market in the Netherlands.
Oh yeah. The tulip. Yeah.
With the tulip market with the clock, tulip. And it has this big like clock on the wall, and it starts sweeping, and then people stop it and that's the price you pay. So like the longer you wait, the cheaper it'll be. You could hit it right away, but then you're paying the premium price. And that's how they do all their auctions. And he got there, and there's like this whole viewing gallery, but now it's all empty because they don't use it anymore, because it's all just done by trading bots, and and it's all digital online. There's no, it's like the movie Trading Places, where they're yelling at each other in the pits, and now it's all just digital.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that people buy and sell and make trillions and trillions of dollars a year on the stock market, where you're owning a piece of a business, and really you're just owning a very tiny piece of a company. And the reason the stock goes up is because the company is supposedly worth more, and therefore your piece of the company is worth more. You can do that with cards. NFTs, the problem with NFTs is that they were not up against anything. There was no market for an NFT because the market was itself. So it was an Ouroboros eating its own tail, as opposed to Magic actually has value. There's a established value. And I guarantee if they did this, they would make sure that, well, I would think they would do this right, and they would make sure that they actually consulted with economists and made sure that it's like, okay, look, we figured out the Magic market for all, the cards. It's worth, we'll say, $20 billion, approximately. I'm just making up a number. And that is what the market is worth. Therefore, we are going to, buy up all the cards. And if they really want to be dicks, they can say, everyone has 5 years or 3 years to give in their cards, and for us to, for them to have value in the digital market. And after 3 years, they're no longer recognized as legal, as you can't play them. If you want to keep them as collectibles, that's fine. But then that market will crash, and people will be scrambling to send their cards into Wizards to have them added to their digital wallets, and then get onto the marketplace, where hopefully they keep the same value. Because if there's only 100,000 Black Lotuses in the world, there'll still only be 100,000 Black Lotuses on the online marketplace. They're not going to increase, because that's what they are.
See, I think you're giving them more credit. I think that there's a number that, if assuming you could work around the reserve list, where Wizard of the Coast could say, if we could sell Black Lotuses at a certain price point, we would.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, if they do that, then they can inflate and destroy the market. And that's what happened with Diablo 3. That's why the real world market in Diablo 3 collapsed. So,
well, what if they sold it? What if they made only a few and sold them for 20,000 or whatever the current price is?
Well,
would that make the market collapse if they sold it for the same price as the market and didn't make very many?
No, because it would still then it actually would, because then
because people would speculate that they would do that again later, and then get worried.
Right, because what rarity is what drives value for this market. But it's not tied to anything. It's tied to rarity.
I mean, there's already companies, right, that are trying to get out. I mean, right, like Troll and Toad is no longer going to...
Troll and Toad. And people are like, oh, Troll and Toad isn't that big a deal. It's a big freaking deal, okay? Yeah. It's a big deal that they're getting out. That's what I'm saying. Is like, I hate to say it, and I don't want to start a run here, but I still got all my alpha. I still got all my beta, which means I have to bring out my obligatory, look, my 4-digit DCI number. And by the way, you know what it was right next to? My Blockbuster card. Look at that.
Oh boy.
A 4-digit DCI is pretty legit.
Yeah, so I'm thinking I might be selling all my cards because I still got them. I still have like 100 dual lands. I got all this. I'm like, you know what? It might be time. I think I might be getting out and finally selling my cards because I'm starting to get a little worried here about the secondary market.
Right, because people in the chat are mentioning Magic 30, and people were like, hey, it's just a proxy, and a lot of people were very upset about this. But the fact of the matter is, people did sell them. And if you go now, I was just in Vegas for the World Championship, not to play in, and the Vegas Magic Fest Vegas, and you had vendors who had Beckett graded pieces of power, but they were from Magic 30. You know, and they were going for not thousands and thousands of dollars like a Mox Sapphire would or a Mox Jet, but were they going for like over $1,000? Yes. And you know, the vintage market, whether or not, even though these were quote unquote unofficial and proxies, it was affected by the what essentially was the introduction of more of these cards. But Wizards of the Coast literally sold them, and then they used it as a price, and they priced these things at the price of the Magic 30 set is famously ridiculous.
It was $1,000.
Right, for 4 or 5 packs. I can't even remember how many it was. It was like ridiculous. They were illegal cards, and people still bought them. So imagine how much they would pay and how much they would sell if they were real. Infinite. I don't know. Like infinite. I mean, they are sitting on this, and again, it's horrible. It's horrible for the game. It's horrible for the collectors. It's horrible for everybody. But that's, you know, more and more. I see these, you know, the last, I mean, we've talked about this on this channel before, even this, like specifically here on RC, where we talked about how many different Magic the Gathering products hit the shelves each and every year. You know, it used to be something like, if you included the base set releases and a couple of special releases, the core releases, it was like you were getting, you know, 6 to 8 to 10 releases a year. And then at one point it was like over 30 or 40. That's like multiple releases a month. It's just, they're just attacking the consumer's wallet at every turn.
Yeah, dude, Chase wrote, you guys give WoTC too many good ideas. Hopefully they don't watch these streams. As I said, if I was in charge, if I had the resources and I was in charge of Magic the Gathering, I tell you, this is what I'd be doing. I hate to say it.
I mean, would you do all of this, or would you do it in a nicer way for the for like the consumers?
Well, nice is in the eye of the beholder. I mean,
that's his way of saying he would be a horrible.
That's his way of saying he'd do the not nice way.
No, I would. But you know what? There are.
Yeah, I mean,
Magic cards are only going to get more and more expensive, and at the end of the day, there's way more distractions. There's a lot more going on in this world. People are buying experiences. In fact, one of the reasons that's
true.
One of the reasons that people have been spending less on physical media and other physical items, they were saying, is that, and this was interesting. I think it was Best Buy. It was the Taylorification, the Taylor Swift Taylorification of they want experiences. Is that people would rather spend $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 and going to a Taylor Swift concert and having a fun experience. And be honest, travel is also way up. I mean, travel was insane last year, which also just proves the point is that
there's probably a lot of that still pent up demand.
It is pent up demand, but it still hasn't gone down yet, and it's still up there. But the thing I'm thinking is that they've been saying that people are really paying for experiences that are unique and hard to come by, as opposed to physical objects and physical items, which is kind of what Magic is. And you know what? A lot of people are playing Magic online and Magic Arena, and I wouldn't be surprised if the number of people who are playing Magic Arena have never played a physical game of Magic in their entire lives. A lot. Yeah, a huge number. And that's only going to be keeping going up. And actually, Adam01 said Marvel Snap is making a mint, and it is. And it's digital only. They're making a huge amount of money.
Right. There's also been people in chat mentioning they're like, the Hearthstone model is what Wizards of the Coast wishes they could do.
Yeah.
Right? Hearthstone, I mean, to be fair, that is what Arena is. And let me tell you something. In Arena, you don't own cards. Right. You can't sell them. You can't do anything with them. If Wizards of the Coast bans them, you're just shit out of luck. If you stop playing the game, you can get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir. Okay. But that doesn't stop people from paying a lot of money for gems and buying these cards and chasing after wild cards and trying to get their mythics and stuff to play. It hasn't. Arena has not been a failure by any stretch of the imagination, despite the fact that it is entirely digital and there is no ownership, no true ownership.
Oh, so Carlos asked me, in the digital world, what's Magic the Gathering's pipeline for new players, new games, or winning share? Their pipeline for new players is the flags, the game
Favorite
stores.
local game store.
Yeah. Hearthstone was a WoW spinoff. Players fall out. Well, as someone who was there, I was actually in the car. I've told this story many times with someone high up at Wizards of the Coast because I was working with Blizzard. I know the guy who made Hearthstone, and they're, by the way, huge Magic fans. That's why they made Hearthstone. And people were spending an average of $500 on the beta of Hearthstone. And I was in the car driving to my flag and talking to him about it. And I said, you guys are in trouble because all you got is Magic Online, and that thing is garbage. And he's like, no way. The physical media of Magic and the complexity of Magic will never be emulated on a computer. People will always want to play it in person. Well, 10 years later, Magic Arena...
That was maybe not exactly right.
Not only did Hearthstone make like $1 billion per year, and by the way, you're saying, oh, Magic and Hearthstone is dying off. It's still making an absolute huge amount of money. Okay,
right?
Dying off is relative, by the way.
Right, it's relative. Yeah,
it's making billions. Okay, it's like maybe it's not making as many billions, but it's still making billions.
And even if you, and that may very well be because other games have come along that sort of crack the formula even more, like Marvel Snap, right?
Yeah, Snap's even. By the way, which was made by the same guys who did Hearthstone.
Oh,
Marvel Snap, they left and did that.
Right. They're just, like, for example, I mean, they know that people are playing this, not on their PC. They're playing it on their phones.
Yeah.
That's why Marvel Snap games are like 5 minutes long.
Yeah. And I hate to break
because you can get in and out while you're taking the elevator ride or while you're taking a shit. At work. Like, no, I'm serious. I know so many people who basically say, I play Marvel Snap a bunch. And I basically play it exclusively in the bathroom.
Well, and the thing is that Magic Online, people are like, well, it could take an hour to play a game. First of all, if you're playing online, it's not an hour because the game is way faster. Second, there can also be time limits. There's not like you sitting there for 3 minutes doing your turn. It can be like Marvel Snap has a time limit. Like you have 30 seconds, and 30 seconds are up, you lose your turn. Well, they'll do the same thing. I don't know if Arena has that on right now. I haven't played in a little while. But
Arena doesn't have the chess clock that Moto has. It has these like timeouts, and like if you take too long, a little timer starts to tick down, and if it ticks down, you lose one of your timeouts, and eventually, if you use too many, it'll pass your turn. So
but the point is that those games are much faster, and you can play one game in 10 minutes, 15, 20 at most. I mean, you can play very fast Magic games. Trust me, very fast.
Yeah.
And you're like, so back to the original question: how did they get new players? The phone, baby.
The phone.
How many flags are there in the world? How many phones are there in the world?
You guys don't have phones?
Do you not have a phone?
Right. No, I mean, that is, I think that the question is more of like, what does the FLGS offer to a new player? They go in there, in most cases, right? It's deserted. Yeah. Tumbleweeds are rolling through there. They ask if you went to most of the stores around here and you were a new player, say, hey, I'm looking to get into Magic the Gathering. What do I do? They'd probably give you some jaded answer about how, we don't have tournaments anymore.
And let's not ignore the biggest.
Like, why don't you go buy this $2,000 commander deck and then you could talk.
Let's talk about one more thing. All right, Mark, you can wake up now. The industry. If you look at the TTRPG industry, I would say it is very inviting to both men and women. And I see a lot of women playing TTRPGs, just as many as men. You go to a Magic the Gathering tournament, it is 99.5% men. And they are often...
Even today?
Yes.
No, not today.
Yes.
Steven, when's the last time you went to a tournament?
Gen Con.
It is more. It is more than that.
Okay. 98%.
Maybe he's doing a little bit of a Steven exaggeration to say that there's only 1 in 200.
No, wrong. It's not 50%. And more importantly,
we're not saying whether it's 50%. You just said that 1 in 200 players is a woman. That's why I'm saying maybe that was an exageration you normally do with numbers.
By the way, and I had to look it up because I knew that this thing, Wizards of the Coast did market research years ago, and they released this big thing. And according to their market research, the demographics of the people who play their game is 62 to 38,
But that's
male
all
to female.
games.
No. That's for Magic's Gathering.
That's for Magic.
including
But
online.
Steven
no
was
way.
talking about tournaments.
I'm talking about physical
specifically.
tournaments. Anyhow,
Physical tournaments.
yeah, I'm talking about physical tournaments. Yeah, Gen Con was less than 5%. Now, yeah, I saw very few women. And more importantly, let me get to this point. I have friends that are women who play Magic. They don't like it. It's very hostile. The men are sometimes very demeaning to them. It's just bad. It's a bad place to be.
Listen, I'm on. I don't really participate in anymore, but I'm in Magic Twitter, and somebody, a female player who's like been on the Pro Tour, like so pretty famous, but was sitting at a tournament, and she was sitting at her at a spot, and Tim, this was just the other week, last month in Vegas, and a bunch of guys came over, and they basically said, hey, a round is starting, you can't sit here anymore because people have to play, because like they were basically implying there's no way that you're in this tournament,
Right.
And when in fact she was in the tournament, and she was at the top table, and she was like, ending up crushing these people out.
Anyhow,
so it's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, there is a gender bias.
There's a huge gender bias, and this is actually one of the secrets of Nintendo, because Nintendo video games once upon a time was also all male, and Nintendo was very active of making it family friendly and courting females, and what do you know, it worked. It worked big time. And now gaming is both male and female. It went to video games. Now it's expanded to TTRPGs and board games. And really the last frontier, I have to say, is Magic the Gathering. Now you have Magic the Gathering online. I guarantee it is closer to 50-50 men to women. But in person, no way. So they're thinking, wow, let's just say I'll just make up a number. We have 5 million men playing Magic the Gathering. That means we're probably losing 4 million women, 5 million women. That because of an uninviting environment, a hostile environment. So if we go online,
only in tournaments, though, right?
But
you're only talking about tournaments.
I'm talking about where they play Magic, which is tournaments and game stores. You go to tournaments and game stores, that's mostly men. I'm not saying it's only way. I mean, that's where the people are playing physical. When you have physical game cards, that's what you're doing. You're playing tournaments and you're playing in game stores.
Yeah, I don't understand what your point is, though.
My point is that they will be able to make twice as much money with an online product because.
So your implication is that women don't play Magic the Gathering because they don't want to play it in person.
If they don't feel safe playing it in person, that is correct.
Because the men who play Magic the Gathering are enough of them are misogynistic towards women in tournaments. It sounds like is what Stephen is saying.
Yeah. I mean, it's put it this way. It's even if it only goes up 10%, that's still pure profit. I know lots of women play Magic.
Yeah,
at their game store, though, in person.
I'm not trying to say that it's 50-50. I'm just trying to say that one of the things that I have seen, and I have talked about this, is that over the last 10 or 20 years, I mean, you just see a lot more just diversity in general. And I'm talking about paper competitive Magic tournaments. There is no doubt in my mind that when I first started playing back in my late teens, early 20s, it was basically all a bunch of cis, white, guys.
Correct.
And now it is still predominantly cis white males, but there is a much larger and appreciable percentage of women, of everybody across the spectrum, LGBTQIA, the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot more folks there, people of color. I mean, like the whole thing. So I think that they have done a good job of increasing diversity and inclusion. And that is one thing I will not ding them on. I might ding them on ruining limited and draft, but I do think that they have done a better job of reaching out.
No, I do not think this is Magic. I don't blame WoTC at all. This is just the environment.
And in Command,
sounds like he's blaming the player base more than WoTC for this one.
Yeah, it's the player base.
I mean, look, yes, there are some horrible, toxic individuals, but that's the case in almost every single thing.
I completely agree, but it has been getting much, much better over the last few years. And someone here said, that many women play video games. Wrong. More women play video games than men. If you do the numbers online, especially mobile games, it's actually, I think it's like 55% to 45% female to male. Don't know why.
And their money their money is just as good as anybody else's.
Yeah. I mean, for whatever reason that I'm not going to get into it. I don't know the reasons, but this was a big deal in the video game world when people were going online. I remember this quite a bit in meetings I would be in, is that they would talk about this. Is that like their market demographics were exploding. And because they literally were doubling their audience just by having it online and having people have the ability to play these games in their own homes. And not at all, a lot of it also has to do with not having to go into the store. You don't actually have to go and buy the games. You could do it online. And it sounds like, oh, that's ridiculous. Who wouldn't want to go into a game store? You know what? Game stores aren't that inviting.
No, they are not. And I say this as part of a person who is very much like, a big pillar or a big part of my local community in gaming sourcing. We were very standoffish and we were very, dismissive of anybody new. Yeah. And that is 10,000 times more harder when you walk in and people look different than you. They have a different gender, or they have a different sexual orientation, or they have a different race or ethnicity. That makes it that much harder of a barrier. And so I completely agree that even I was for a good long time part of the problem in that, not making the game necessarily inviting. Again, but we're talking about Magic the Gathering here. Let me tell you, you go down to my local game store on a Wednesday or whatever for Pokemon League night. It's a very different story. A lot of full tables, a lot of females. Lorcana.
I was about to say, Lorcana is opening up the industry to a whole new group of people. I mean, you can take it or leave it, or love it or hate it. Lorcana is changing the face of the industry, probably for the better, because suddenly people who are into Disney animation might be interested in Lorcana just because, hey, why not? They might not know anything about Magic. And, a rising tide raises all ships. That's exactly what happened to Pathfinder. It's like when D&D got more popular, Pathfinder got more popular because there was more people playing, and more people playing were more interested, and they look at other games. So suddenly, Steven is so biased and correct here.
No, he's your base.
Oh, okay. No, my glasses on.
You are also biased, but that doesn't mean
you are.
I am biased. Well, because I saw it from the beginning, and I'm older than both of you. And look, it's like my initial group. I was called out originally when we started the podcast because we didn't have any females on it.
Right.
And it's because I didn't know, I have a picture of my, it's not even the Dungeons and Dragons Club. It's the Dragons and Dungeons Club from my yearbook because they messed it up. There's no women in that group. I wish there were women in that group. My chess group. Okay. We had in my chess group in high school, we had one woman on the chess group. This is a true story. Sure. She was the best by far. She blew us all away. Her dad,
your own Beth Harmon.
Her dad then halfway through the season said she could no longer play and forbid her to play because it wasn't ladylike, and she had to quit the league.
Well, look, again, I mean, things have progressed a lot. We don't hunt dinosaurs anymore, Stephen, like they did in your day.
I know, but the point is like I lived through this and saw this, so it's like it is a little different.
I'm not trying to to be clear with the chat. I'm not trying to say that it should be 50-50. I'm not saying that is that it has to be somehow this thing where it's equal numbers of men and women. I am totally fine accepting that there may be certain games or hobbies or pastimes that are more appealing to certain people who identify as one gender over another. That being said, I definitely think that the number is going up. It is. It was very, 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 very low, and now it is just kind of low. And in some instances, in certain elements of the hobby, TTRPGs, Lorcana, Pokemon, I am seeing far more representation. I mean, going to Gen Con now is night and day, Stephen, when we went 20 years ago.
I have had the stories that I went to Icon, and this was in the late 90s, and I sat down to play a game of D&D, And there were not one, but 2 young women at the D&D game. And that was the first time ever in history, I think once, maybe very rarely, would there be a female at a D&D game, let alone 2. And they were young. And I actually asked them, I said, how did you learn about this? Now, this is back in like 3.5 days, maybe even 2. This was a while ago. And no, it was 3. It was 3.5. And it just, 3.5, I think, just came out. And they said, Harry Potter. And Harry Potter is what opened them up to the world of fantasy, which then opened them up to the world of Dungeons and Dragons. And,
all those books and movies coming out at about that time.
That was
really opened up
a renaissance
across demographics. It was a renaissance.
Yeah.
It wasn't just Harry Potter, the Lord of the Rings
I was going to say, it was Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. Then you have Game of Thrones, which really cemented it. And then suddenly, being a geek, in fact, we're starting to see the downturn.
Would you say that being a geek was chic?
Being a geek was chic, but actually now it's starting to eat its own tail. And being a geek is actually getting, I hate to say it, but it's actually starting to get very violent, and the geek culture is starting to turn on itself, which is kind of sad, but
sure,
it always happens. It's a peak, and then it starts to decline.
In some ways, it had already and always turned on itself in certain ways, but now that it's getting bigger, the subset that is turning on itself and the vociferousness who do not want to allow a bigger tent, are getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
Demeep says, can we get back to how WoTC is sawing off the branch it's sitting on? I mean, I think what it comes down to is WoTC had some incredible years of money making. And the powers that be at the Papa Hasbro took notice, and for the first time ever, probably came down with some job objectives that said, you need to make us money. And, I'd like to tell you that it's only going to be restricted to Wizards of the Coast, but I don't think it is. I think there's going to be a lot more companies and a lot more different hobbies and genres that are going to be pursuing the almighty dollar. And I do think that all businesses should, unless you're like a really bad one like mine, make decisions with being profitable or at least being solvent in mind. But at the same time, I do think that the priority of what is the best thing for the gamer, what is the best thing for the game, I think that has become less and less of a concern in these decisions, and that we've seen from Wizards of the Coast as time has gone on. Like even with like D&D 5.5 or 6.0 or whatever the hell they're calling it nowadays. Like the fact that they have like taken steps, walked that back, taken more steps. Like I'm like, what, Mark, maybe you can agree with me, but I don't think design by committee is a good way to make any game. And it's like their primary goal doesn't seem to be to make the best game. Their goal seems to be, how do we make the best selling game? And it would be awesome if those were the same thing, but they're not. And, I think Magic the Gathering is going the same way. If they were really worried about the quality, and there used to be this idea, and to be fair, this is all of our fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. It's you out there's fault. Because the idea was that companies, this was the basis of capitalism, which has failed completely, is the company that makes the better game, that makes the quality product, will be rewarded by the consumer's confidence, trust, and dollars. And it is sort of the long play, The problem is we're all buying shit. We're paying for this and we're not complaining about it. And whatever Wizards of the Coast comes out, people are going to go buy it. And this is a text conversation I have with my friend the other day, Monday, when this news came out. Okay. I sent him a message on Monday at 1 p.m. They're getting rid of draft boosters, ... OMFG. That was me. And he goes, yeah, our buddy just sent me the link. I said, basically, it's just set boosters now with prices to match. He goes, it says it's still draftable. I said, yeah, more rares, less commons, and I think it's shit. And he goes, obviously it will be shit, but I'm a sucker, and I'll play and pay whatever they put out there. And that is what they are counting on. They are counting on my buddy going, yeah, but you know me, I'm a sucker, I'm addicted, I'm whatever. I'm going to pay and play whatever they give me, and I'll be happy with it.
So duct tape
And
man.
So I mean, they're still going to get money if enough people are like that. They might even get more from this than they would have from other techniques.
So duct tape man for $5 says 2 of the women at my gaming table have been playing since AD&D. Hey, look, I know people who have been playing for a long time that are both male and female now. Okay, now I do because I've met thousands more people. But back in my high school days, in my junior high days, and my elementary school days, it was 0. I mean, there weren't any. And a lot of it had to do was even just social pressures. I mean, again, I'm older, but they weren't allowed to. I mean, so the vice president of my first company, she only got to see a computer when she went to college. She actually brought a typewriter with her, and this is in the late 80s. And let me tell you, she was one of the best computer coders, programmers, designers I've ever seen in my life. And I always think about that. I'm like, man, what a waste. It's that she wasn't able to actually do her calling until she was in her 20s. Like it took, like she just wasn't allowed to do it because her parents wouldn't let her. I mean, it was not considered something that women and females did back then, and therefore they weren't allowed to do it. She wasn't open to it until she finally was. She loved it. She was fantastic at it, and that became, her career. And I've seen that happen. I had another friend of mine. This is actually pretty recent. This is only about 10 years ago. She's now I think in her late 30s, maybe early 40s. She was raised as a concert clarinetist, and she was raised to, do that. And she went to school for it, and she toured, and she didn't really like it. Like, she'd have to rehearse all the time. It was hard for her to find an apartment, a place to live, because people would complain because she'd have to rehearse like 8 hours a day, and people don't want to hear the clarinet 8 hours a day. And then she'd have to travel, and she got paid very little. And then her mid 30s, early 30s, she became a computer programmer. And it's funny because she was really into games, adventure games, so I gave her a whole bunch to play. She loved them, and what do you know, she was really good at computer programming, and now that's what she does. She's a coder, and she loves it.
And if she had stuck with it, she would have been a first chair at the New York Philharmonic, making millions of dollars a year. But because you took her off of her dedication path,
they don't make that much, and she also would not have gotten that high. The point is that because of social norms and social pressure, she wasn't allowed to do what ended up being her true calling in a way.
People suck, Stephen.
Yeah, do people suck? And someone here said, as a woman, why is it so bad that men are playing TTRPGs? Nothing's bad about it. It's just that if you are only selling to 50%, actually men make up less than 50. If you're selling to only less than 50% of the population, well, then you're leaving half of the money on the table there, baby.
Let's be clear about this, right?
Amount. You want all the monies.
Right. From a corporate standpoint of horrible late stage capitalism, you want everybody's money. So you will do or change or market or whatever, shift whatever you think is the best process to go forward to, get rid of this. And according to Stephen, not according to Derik, but according to Stephen, he believes that because they might want to be that the digital audience is more appealing to women, and it is in video games, at least when it comes to certain casual games, that Wizards of the Coast, by shifting more and more and more and more towards a digital product, is not only going to be doing that so that they can eliminate the secondary market and the loss of returns on investment from secondary sales, but also by creating an environment that is more appealing to a wider range of people, including women. And in doing so, they will conquer the market and become Lord WoTC, when they will destroy everyone with their profit margins. And Hasbro will be worth $300 a share.
Here's the thing. In the end of the day, if they do this right, it's all going to work. And it is going to go up to $300 a share. They're going to be making billions if they do this correctly. And I can give
It's a lose-lose, because it either doesn't work and the company goes out of business,
right,
and I don't get to play awesome, cool Magic anymore.
Right.
Or it works, and then they just keep doubling and tripling and quadrupling down on this horrible fucking strategy.
It's not, though, because I hate to break it to you, there's proof in the pudding, and that's why Cynthia Williams was hired, because video games have already proved this works. Video games are going to make over 200
I don't
billion.
play video games either. So.
I know, but video games are going to make but very
ask me how
soon,
much I spent on Hearthstone and Marvel
within
Snap.
5 years, video games should probably be somewhere about $500 billion a year in profit. And sorry, in was it revenue, gross
sales or whatever?
Yes.
Yeah.
Growth.
$500 billion. Okay. $1 trillion.
It's a lot of zeros. I get it.
Okay, they're going to be making billions. They'll make they're basically making $1 billion every 3 or 4 days. It works. This market, the video game market, is more profitable and has more money than every other entertainment industry combined. So don't beat them, join them. It's like, well, D&D is going to turn into a video game. Yep, you're right, it is. Well, Magic the Gathering is going to turn into a video game that's only played online. Yep. It's like, and your point is, like, I hate to break it to you, that's where the money is. That's what they're going to do. And they're at the point now where they're not a cute company anymore, where they're doing this just for fun. It's that they need to make, and they've said it publicly, in 5 years, they need to double the amount of money that D&D and Magic makes now.
Yeah, and you're not going to do that without some serious jiggering of your revenue streams and your player base and a lot of growth and quote unquote over monetizing potentially under monetized channels, right?
Yeah, exactly. And D&D
so we got two super chats. It looks like.
Okay.
Tiger Eye said that they told Hasbro and WoTC to kiss off after 4E, never looked back, went PF1 and PF2 and third party.
I agree with Tiger Eyes. I, too, was very upset after Wizards of the Coast abandoned the fantastic and amazing game that was 4th edition. And after they gave up on 4th edition to make 5th edition, I agree with you. I think it was a horrible mistake and they should never do it again.
And Showzama85 said that they liked the game shots more before TCGs came about, and if they went away, they wouldn't mind that much. I don't know, Showzama. I think that things will change in a way that you don't like, if that's what you're hoping, because I think that it's not going to go back to the way the game stores were before the TCGs. Instead, those game stores are going to disappear. If TCGs go away, that is their lifeblood. They're not going to be able to operate and just keep selling the things they had before that. Not anymore. Not in this economy.
Comic book stores are going away. I mean, some of the big ones, like some of the franchise ones in Manhattan, are closing, and they just don't make money anymore. It's like these. Yeah. It's like
there was a comic book store that I used to go to when I was a kid. Like when Magic first came out, it's like where I used to buy my first packs of cards, and they had like a little, they had like one booster box on the stuff, but it was all comics. And he never really adapted. He's got like one little area of board games, it's like that. I went in there the other day. I hadn't been there probably in over a decade, and it was tragic. I mean, it was like a tomb in there. Yeah. And I think that all of these, I mean, you're already seeing stores fold. You're already seeing that because more and more players now are just already, without them even having to do anything, people are already shifting to digital.
And I'll say one more thing about this is that people are like, well, this will never happen. Well, let's go the other route. Let's say these stores go out of business. Then where's Magic getting bought and sold? Who's making the money? Like, how are they making money? If they lose their distribution channels, which are right now game stores, then they're not going to make any money, because then they can only sell on like Amazon or, well, that's kind of it. Actually, they could sell them from their own store. So they want to go digital as quickly as possible, because then they own everything. It's completely vertical. They own the distribution. They own the third-party market, the secondary market, the primary market. They own it all. Right now, the problem is they are very dependent on secondary markets, and they're very dependent on other people buying and selling their products. And this goes to Magic. This goes to D&D. And they will like it a lot more when they're like, and this is what video games did, and this is where movies have gone. They're going all digital. They love it. In fact, the writer strikes, that's what it was all about, is because they're cutting out all the residuals. Remember, there used to be these things called residuals that actors would get. It was all gone, because by the digital model, they were able to eliminate them, and then all these people were losing money. Well, guess what? It's going to happen the same way, is that these game stores are going to go away. It might take 20 years. It might take 10 years, but they will one day. Same way as comic book stores go away because the world is going digital. And if WoTC is smart, they will figure out and kind of do what I said earlier, is figure out a way to make all Magic sets that are now in the future and past digital, move completely online. They own everything. People can still play the game. People can still sell their cards to other people, just as they are now. Maybe even can make storefronts so Star City Games could make a deal with WoTC and that they can have their own, storefront, and they can, get their cards up there and then they can sell them through there. Everything's done digitally. And when you go to game conventions, it'll be like, Hearthstone tournaments is that you do it with your iPad and you're sitting there literally with your iPad against the other person. And that's how you play the tournaments now. And sure, they're in person, but they're digital.
Christian Ice said, well, if comic circles did digital, game stores better convert to pubs. And it reminded me of a conversation I had the other day with my barber. And it was a new person. And I basically said, like, and he basically was like, yeah, I went to school, whatever. And he goes, and, for not for barber, for something else, computers or who knows. And he goes, basically, he's like, I decided, he's like, I don't want to get into a business that someone could buy it off of Amazon. And I also don't want to get into a business that an AI could do. And he's like, it doesn't matter what, you're never gonna be able to buy a haircut off the internet. And so he's like, so I went into, I walked away from, a 4-year degree in computer or whatever programming or whatever to go to barber school, because he's like, I just saw more of a future in it, because man, that is just the things that I said, you know what, buddy, you're not wrong.
I have a lot of friends now. I'm at the age where, my kids are going to college and their kids are going to college, and the kids, a lot of them are going to trade schools.
Yeah.
Because you're always going to need plumbers.
Right.
You're always going to need electricians.
We are a long way away from the time where we have, advanced enough robots and AI that a robot plumber comes in and does your plumbing. It's not happening anytime soon.
Exactly.
And these men and women in the trades are just writing their, they basically, they give people estimates that are basically the say no estimate. Because they go, I have so much business that, I want you to say no. And it's like these outrageous estimates. It's crazy. Yeah. And this, I would tell anybody here who is thinking of changing professions, or if they're younger, consider skipping college and going to trade school and learning to do a trade, because but be smart about it, right? Don't necessarily do one that you can get replaced by a machine, on the factory line. A couple years down the road, because we have such a shortage. And as someone who's been trying to get work done at my house and stuff like that, like I've experienced it firsthand. So big shout out to all those people who were very smart and went to trade school.
So I think
that's quite a tangent, but it is definitely true that trade school is practical, whereas we were sold a future of everybody has to go to college and it'll all work out somehow, and certainly that's getting off topic from what Wizards of the Coast is doing.
Off topic portion. So if anyone has any questions, we could talk about Star Trek. Oh wait, I gotta show you the best book I've gotten in
What is the best
years.
book? What
Derik,
is it?
Look. Ta-da!
Oh, you got the Star Trek Adventures for Lower Decks.
It is so good. This book is so good. I just love it. And maybe because I like Toon, I just like it. It's like, take a cartoon and make it into an adventure. It's so well done. I love it.
Well,
it's so
the Star
good.
Trek Adventures line is well done. Particularly, they have released a insane amount of books from Modifius.
Guess what? It was all on Amazon. They had the big sale the other day. So This is what I picked up. Man, it's so good. Look at that. You got all the pictures. I love Lower Decks. You got all the characters and the lore. And it's just funny. That's the other thing. It's like, it's so tongue in cheek. The whole book is just a little whoops, there we go. You got Badgie. I
don't know the characters well enough.
Oh, it's so
is that in the deities section?
No, that's under the Packlids because that is the Packlids. So the Packlids have a system that whoever has the biggest hat is in charge. So,
or no, I was saying his badgie in the deities section.
Oh, that was season 4. He became a deity, and this only went up to season 3.
Fair enough.
He joined the Q Continuum and the Koala, which no one knows about. But this is really good book, and this is what I like. And this is actually why Starfinder really talked to me. Is that Starfinder is really tongue in cheek. It's very fun. It's sort of goofy. It's a little silly. And this is like really silly, and I like that. It's like hard science fiction Star Trek was silly, and people hate that.
Wait. Hold on. Back up.
Okay, not hard. Let me rephrase that. It's not hard
Star Trek is not hard science fiction. It's not even close.
It's not even close, but at the time it was.
Star Trek is definitely far on the soft side of science fiction, where it's just like, we're replicating matter and we're going
it's soft,
warp
but
around
at the time,
things. It's so not hard.
But it was considered hard because it was as hard. I agree 100%. It is no longer, but
I don't know if it was. I don't know if it was Lower Decks.
I also got this. It's got Dune.
Yeah. I don't know if it was Lower Decks or not, but there was a book that came out, and I think they made it into a web. They had a thing, but I think it was in one of the recent Star Trek things. They had a really great technobabble random generator. It was. I don't know if it was in Lower Decks or if it was in the Captain's Log product. But it was so good because it was just like everything that you would want out of a technobabble generator. And I just love that they actually had it, and it was just like, it was so good. And it was just like, we need to, reverse the polarity of the ion matrix thrusters, or something just completely nonsense. And so I like that they were kind of, getting the gist of the game. But they came up with great product. Actually,
yeah, I got the Dune role-playing game, actually, because of you, Derik, because you talk about it a lot.
Yeah, I actually just finished up my entire collection of every Dune.
I got this one. Oh, yeah, we got the same one. That's silly.
Every single Dune book that they've come out with yet. They've been really good. And yeah, very, very, very prolific writers. But it's a good thing. Again, thing about Magic the Gathering is, with Wizards of the Coast, I'm personally kind of biased because it's like, well, if they shit the bed on D&D, I don't care. I like D&D out. When the new edition comes out, I will definitely check it out and see what's going on with it. But at the end of the day, I've got so many other games I can be playing.
Here's the thing. At the end of the day,
I sadly do love Magic the Gathering. And a game like Pokemon or Lorcana or Flesh and Blood or whatever, or One Piece or whatever, is not a replacement for me for Magic. So Magic, for D&D, I've kind of been like, whatever, they can screw up the OGL. I don't care. It really doesn't matter to me. There's so many other games that I want to play, that I need to play, that I will
Magic
play.
Hit that nerve. Magic nerve.
That cuts me deep. It cuts me deep.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've met all my friends through Magic. I have a lot of history with Magic. I all my friends to this day, and the people on my podcast are from Magic. That's how I met them. I met them in Magic tournaments. So, Magic is a big part of my life. And the funny thing is, I would tell people, oh, yeah, these are my friends from Magic tournaments. And they didn't know what I was talking about. They thought oh, I pull a rabbit out of my hat. It's like, well, here's a dove. Is this your card? That's what they thought we were doing. I'm like, no, it's not that type of Magic tournament.
Oh, listen, I've had this exact conversation many times with TSA agents and customs agents on the border of US and Canada. We take a look. Someone came up on the x-ray. They look at a thing. I've got all these long boxes, strange shapes inside of my thing. TSA agent starts opening up my luggage. Border Customs Patrol agent starts asking me questions, and I say, oh, I'm going for Magic. And they go, oh, Magic? Oh, doing a trick? And watching their face go from being legitimately interested and excited to just being progressively more disappointed, and eventually to being you're weird. As I explained, it's well, it's like a card game with elves and dragons. It's like poker and chess, but at the same time. And they're all like, Yeah, I don't care
which
anymore.
is sadder now. Which is sadder. Back then, you'd have to explain it, but nowadays, they would say, "Oh, Magic, cool. I've been playing since." I don't know, which is it's. I don't know. It's getting weird.
Actually, I'm more likely now to say it's like Pokemon. That's
true. But the thing is, everyone now is a geek. Everyone knows this stuff. It's actually kind of depressing. But
I know
it is.
Listen, we've done this on a prior stream where I talked about, like, look, I grew up during the 80s and 90s when being a geek was not cool, and it was a badge of honor. It was a big part of my identity, and I enjoyed the sort of exclusive gatekeeping nature of these, sort of Gygaxian prose where, he was basically like, only you are smart enough to behold these secrets that men were not meant to know.
My friend Chris Beamer.
It spoke to me. I mean, as a young kid, it made me feel special.
My friend Chris Beamer grew up in Brooklyn, in Manhattan. He would openly wear his dice pack on his belt.
Oh, that's so
cringy. In the subway. Just asking for it because he was so proud of being a geek and being a gamer. And
I didn't go that far. I didn't go that far.
Oh, well, he would. I mean,
and I don't, I mean this in like a respectful way. Like, that is a big reason why when I turned 18 or whatever, when I went to my first major con, Gen Con, it was like going on, like going to Mecca. It was like going to Jerusalem and praying at the, you know what I mean? Like, it was like this, it was like a holy moment to suddenly be in a place where everyone knew what I was talking about.
No, you don't have to tell me. That's why I go.
And so,
that's why I still go.
Well, it's funny because now I feel more like an outsider there.
Well, you do, but I don't.
Right, I do, but you don't. But like, I feel more now like the industry, I have grown in ways that the industry has not. And I have also, sort of remained stagnant in ways that the industry has not. And in either way, it's sort of, that's true. Old Codger said Gen Con used to literally be in Mecca. Yeah, that is absolutely true.
It was true. The
Milwaukee exhibition.
Right. True.
Yeah, that is so good. That is actually really, really good.
You get a hero point for that one. That was good.
Yes, you get a hero point for that. But yeah, I mean, so, D&D is kind of moving back, but Magic, for me, is still something that is important, and it bothers me to see them, changing the game probably for the name of profit.
Yeah, but the thing is, so it's like everyone thinks we're critical and we're bashing on WoTC, and like, here's the thing.
You are.
I'm not, though. I'm bashing on them because they're changing things. I'm not bashing on them. I'm just saying this is the way things are going to be. This is how they're going to make money. And the thing is, it's going to work if they do it right. They're going to come out of this making billions. And they're going to probably break and change the game industry to something we don't even recognize.
And you're sort of bashing on the greed of the executives, but you're not saying that they're necessarily doing a bad plan, and you're not saying that the people who work at Wizards are not good at like designing games.
No, I'm saying that they are actually, I keep saying it, if I was in charge and my mandate was to make money and grow the brand, then you have to do things like change the nature of the game. Like, it's like, well, we have seen D&D as big as it gets, and how do I double it from where it is now? We already have Stranger Things, we already have Critical Role, we already had a pandemic. You ain't doubling it. There's no more doubling. There's no more even making it bigger. This is as far as it gets. So you need to expand into different industries. You need to turn D&D from a TTRPG into a video game. You need to get non-gamers to play it and pay small amounts of money on a constant basis. That is how you grow and make more money. Will it necessarily grow the brand? Will it necessarily make the game better? No, not at all. That's not the point here. The point is to make more money. And that's the point. And that's the sad part, is that the game is not going to be what it used to be because that's not the priority. The priority 40 years ago, or the last 40 years, was making really good games and to making really good products. Now, I think the people who work there are still trying to make very good games and very good products and come out with great adventures and great books and doing their hardest. But the people in the C-suite and above are saying, turn this into a video game, and they have to now work within that environment, and it's a very different environment.
Yeah. Davin Perry said Hearthstone was my very first TCG, I believe, but I have only spent a few $100s on it. But here's the thing, Davin. If everybody in the world was spending just a few $100s on it, you would own the world. That's the thing. Like that's huge.
True for anything. If
I know
everyone in the world does it.
I'm just saying, which is why everybody just needs to send me $1.
Or even everyone in the US or other countries where spending a few $100 is not just a ridiculous amount of money that would take you years to earn or something like that, right?
Right.
I assume you mean anyone who can just throw around a few $100.
Yeah. No, it's very true.
But yeah.
And Tiger Eyes, the thing is, do you need to destroy the old to make the new? That's my problem with the situation. No, but the fact of the matter is, yes, because what you want to do is you want to remove those options that for people to come in. You want them to be in the channel that you want them to be. Think about, when we talk about railroading and adventure design, right? You want the PCs to go where you want them to go. And the idea is because you have created for them a really cool experience. You're not doing it because, there's some GMs who are maybe doing it because they're power hungry and, mad. But most of the time you're like, wow, if you guys actually follow the breadcrumbs, you're going to really enjoy it. But to do that, I have to take away some of your agency. I have to kind of make some decisions for you for your own good. And I, as a DM, am not willing to risk the session, the adventure, the campaign falling apart because I gave you guys too much freedom. Now I'll burn that MFR down, right? But there are most GMs realize that, gaming groups are a fairly tenuous thing. And so they will do whatever, they'll fight tooth and nail to keep their game together. Wizards of the Coast is the same way. They want you to sort of experience the product in a way that they think will be better for you. And put it another way. We'll use D&D as an example.
Sure.
As people who are already in the ecosystem, and this is a completely arbitrary metric, if they made the game 20% worse from your perspective, but it grew the player base 3 times, would you, as a consumer and a current player of the game, be excited about that? Probably not.
That's an interesting question. I think that the answer to that question is different for 5e, where I'm like, well, the consumer base is fine. But as compared to, let's say you pick somebody's favorite indie that they think that I don't know if that's my favorite indie. I like playing it.
I'm just picking.
But you pick somebody's favorite indie that they feel like this indie is so good that it's 3 times better than the next best indie or big game for me, for this particular person. We'll just have this hypothetical person, a hypothetical consumer, Connie the consumer. So Connie has an indie that is 3 times better than the next best game. It's just so perfect. So if they were to institute a new edition of that indie that's 20% worse, and so therefore instead of 300% as good as the next best game is now 240% as good as the next game after this second edition of indie game, but triple the player base, that actually might be worth it because the indie might have so few people who play it. The tripling the base has a meaningful advantage in terms of being able to actually find games.
Right.
Whereas 5e, you can already find games. So getting triple player base probably doesn't help you as a player very much, and losing 20% of quality in your hypothetical example here would affect you. So I would say it's not necessarily true always, but for D&D, I would not take that as a player, consumer, as a player, as an executive.
Yeah, as an executive, you're going to take that all day. Yeah.
I hope I wouldn't be an evil executive who's doing that because I care about games enough, but therefore I would be an executive who would be fired. Like you talking about yourself, Derik, for your company, where you care more about just doing it for the love of it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree, Mark. You and I we're not very good. We wouldn't be very good top level C executive suite men. I think Steven could pull it off. He's got that lawful evil background. He could twirl his mustaches and laugh maniacally. Whereas I think at the end of the day, I would either operate on the inside or resign. but that's because you're a professional, Steven. I'm not.
Whoa.
Whoa.
There's some kind of like alarm or something going off in my place, so I'm going to see if it's a smoke alarm and
Well, with
leave.
that, why don't we wrap up? And Derik, who's going to be on your show tomorrow?
Well, assuming he
It's
doesn't burn to
me,
death.
but as long as I don't burn to death,
Don't
I'm
lose more
leaving.
magic cards. Oh, we lost them completely.
Well, yeah, he said his thing was on fire.
Look at that. I got a 2-person. It says Mark, but close enough. You know who that is.
It's close. I could be Mark. It's fine. Yeah. So Mark is going to be on my show tomorrow. We, of course, at Night's the Last Call on YouTube. We go live Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. And Mark is going to be on the show. We're going to chat about Pathfinder and other RPGs, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the new Kickstarter, Year of Legends. So that'll be a lot of fun. And Mark's been on the show a couple times. Steven, you've been on my show a couple times, sometimes even impromptu, which has always been a lot of fun. And of course, with the chat and me and Mark, it's a much more of like a gaming workshop session than some of our other streams. So Mark and I will probably get really into the nitty gritty and weeds of it. So if you do have questions for Mark and I, probably Mark mostly, feel free to check us out. Night's the Last Call. We'll be there tomorrow.
What about me? Aren't I coming on your show?
Do you want to come on my show?
I thought I was coming on.
Oh, you're coming on next week.
Yeah, the week after.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I didn't want to spoil the fun, but yes, the week after, next Thursday, the 26th, I'm going to have Steven on. So yeah. I think, I'd love to pick Steven's brain. One of the things that a lot of our base has been asking us is like, are you guys ever going to make a thing? Are you guys ever going to do a Kickstarter? Are you guys ever going to try to publish something? You guys ever going to try to make your own game? And my answer is always, it's a really complicated process. And there's a lot that goes into it. And every time I talk to you, Steven, I just get more and more impressed with anybody who gets anything published. Yeah. So I think that might be
a bit of a nightmare.
Exactly. So that might be a fun conversation for Thursday. It's just kind of like you and I talking about, this is next Thursday, talking about the process, like a little bit maybe of the business, sure. How the wheels get greased. I think it'll be really interesting. So
yeah. I will talk about that to a limited extent. It is no, it's like you don't want to give all the secrets, but it is fascinating.
No, not the secrets, but just
it
sort
is
of
fascinating, like how the print industry works and how the stores, and I'm finding that because that's even new to me, and yet it's an industry.
You talk about the shipping containers today. To me, it was very eye opening. Like just you don't think about the logistics that goes in getting that game into your hands.
Oh, it's incredibly complex.
You don't think about the art, the design. Like there's so much of the game that we just take for granted. And I know that there's a lot of people out there. Your itch.io and a lot of other people who think of game design as being like, I want to create a really cool rule set, right? Like the text, the actual crunch of it. And don't get me wrong, that's important. But there's that is like the tip of the iceberg on all the work that needs to be done.
That's why I keep saying the future is digital, because it's like, okay, I'll give a 30-second over. I could do this for hours. It's like, okay, I make music. I'm making a DVD. Fine. Then you got to go to China, have the DVDs pressed, printed, made for different regions, because every region of the world has their own version of the DVD, different languages, different SKUs, blah, blah, blah. So you're going to make 50 different versions of the same movie. Okay, then those all have to go into container ships, and they have to go through customs, and they have to get the tariff set up. Fine. Then you get through that, then you get on the trucks, and the trucks have to bring it to the warehouses. Then the warehouses have to bring it to the stores, and the stores have to order them, and then you have to get paid, and everyone takes a cut, and it is an absolute total nightmare. Everyone's hand is in the pie, and in the end of the day, the people who make those DVDs get like 30% of what they made, and then they still have to pay for everything else, because that didn't come out of Best Buy. That came out of their pocket.
And to be clear, and I'm not trying to fault anybody for this, but because the fact of the matter is that was just the price of doing business, right?
Right.
In order for me to get a movie to you, I, the creator of that movie, right, had no other alternatives.
Right.
And so this system of what we would call middlemen had to exist.
Yes.
And so you end up with a scenario where you have entire industries where you are essentially taking money away from the creator, but let's be honest with ourselves, they're not adding anything to the final product. They were there just because they had to be. Otherwise, there was no way for you to even see the movie, which, to be fair, is a value in and of itself. But now that you have these other alternative means where you can put the product directly into the hands of the consumer, you have these well-established companies that are sort of saying like, well, what about us? And it's like, well, yeah, but you were always a necessary evil. You weren't ever like part of the ideal process.
Oh yeah, trust me, they're worried. these middlemen are just scared to death because they're suddenly like, wait a second, they don't need us anymore. And the answer is yeah, because I can actually, me being the person, can say I can get a web server on Amazon, which is pretty cheap, and I can put up all my products digital only and sell them for $20, and I get to keep $19 and like 80 cents of those $20 instead of before I would sell it for $20, and I got to keep 6. And by the way, the printing costs are $2, so I make $4 on every $20 item I sell.
I mean, when I do my live streams, I always encourage people. I'm happy to take whatever, but I always say, look, you have 2 options. You can super chat me on YouTube, or you could take one extra step and click on my tip link and tip me on Stream Elements. I said one of those, the YouTube one, you're trying to give your content creator who you like $10. Okay, well, YouTube's going to take $3 from that. They take 30%. Why? What are they doing? Well, they're providing you with the platform. That's true, but I think that platform server has been paid for enough times well over. They're just getting their cut. Yeah. Whereas if you pay me directly through essentially PayPal, I only pay, like a 1% processing fee. And so more of the money is going to the person that you want it to do. I mean, again, if I'm buying a book from you and Mark, I would rather put as much of that money as I can into your hands, not into some, what's that company that just went out of business? Orange, the trucking company, was that it? Or like DHL. I'm not going to put money into DHL.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, but just so that they could, get someplace. So
yeah,
Mark is confirmed not a fire.
So so if you want to give us money, just go to battlezoo.com and buy our products there. But the point is that everything's going digitals because the profit margin is so. It's night and day. It's like, and that's what I said. The wars right now are going over platforms. That's the wars. The wars are who owns the platforms, whether it's on Amazon, whether it's on Apple, whether it's on Google, whether it's on Netflix, because you're not going to leave, or it's very hard for you to leave once you're on that platform. Like there's alternatives to Spotify. I don't know a lot of people who use those alternatives because once you're on Spotify and you get all your lists and get all your preferences set up, are you going to really want to move it to somewhere else? Probably not. So you keep it.
I do not. And I have been a member for Spotify for I don't even know how many years.
Exactly.
They get you know what, to be honest with you, I don't even know what the price is. I'm sure the price has increased like 10 times.
Right.
I think when I first started paying, it was like $4 a month.
Right.
And now it's probably 12.
And that's why D&D Online and, D&D is going to go completely digital because they want to become an online store where they don't need to worry about books. Or if you do books, there'll be $100 special editions that you can buy at Barnes & Noble or Amazon and put them on your shelf, and so be it. But otherwise, you can get that same book for your $19.95 monthly subscription at D&D Beyond, and you'll get every single book for free, as long as you keep paying your subscription fee, and you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to pay. You don't have to put out hundreds of dollars on 4 books in a year. You can pay. It's a bargain if you look at it that way. It's like, okay, I can buy these 4 books and it's $400, or I can pay $200 a year and have every book ever made forever. So as long as I keep paying, that's a bargain, man. Why wouldn't I do that?
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I got to go too, and everyone do check out the Year of Legends. Starts in 1 week, and wait till you see the website. It looks gorgeous because I had a professional make it instead of me doing it all the time. Not that I thought mine looked that bad. I think mine looked good, but when you have someone whose entire job it is to make these sites, it makes it a lot easier on me, and it looks a lot better. So
there you go. And thank you, Stephen, for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Always fun, always a pleasure. I love your audience.
Did
They're
you get
always,
to rant? Or was it like a mini rant?
Look, I expressed my disapproval. I think it'll make for a worse game, and I get, and I feel like the motivation here is strictly monetary, but I also can't. It's kind of like a chicken and the egg scenario, because I also understand that by and large the player community isn't playing those formats, and they aren't playing the way that they used to play, and so the company itself has to react to the consumers' interests and desires. If they're not buying that product, then yeah, I get it. But I guess I'm just, yeah, that's why it's a rant, because I'm old man shouting at clouds like, you guys should be playing limited booster draft, but they don't want to. So
that's the only thing I play.
It's basically the only thing I do play anymore now, because I don't play constructed.
Because it's a challenge. It's so much fun it's always different too. I hate limited, not limited. I like draft. I don't like constructed or whatever it was.
Yeah, constructed is where you 60 cards, you bring your own stuff.
Oh yeah, I hate constructed because it's like within one play you're like, oh, you're playing deck A, B, C, or D, and I'm playing deck E, therefore I either A, won, or B, lost. It's like by the first play, if you're going to win or lose. And it's like, because if you're not playing the right type, or maybe we're both playing deck E, but I'm playing deck E version 1, you're playing deck E version 2, so maybe I have a smaller chance of winning.
Right,
now.
but for a lot of people, I'm going to defend metagaming here. For a lot of people, the fun of Magic the Gathering is reading the tournament scene and trying to estimate shifts in the metagame and try to predict what deck will be best positioned for that tournament for that weekend.
That being said, all right, one's here now. It's just us, and then we'll sign off. I'm going to tell you a secret. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm listening.
I have a meta deck for Marvel Snap.
Oh,
that no one has copied yet, because there's a lot of meta in Marvel Snap. I invented my own deck type, and this thing wins all the time. I kill in this. It's very complex. It actually takes me a while to get back into it, even when I don't play for a while, to remember how to play, because it's like a non-linear deck. It's blue in the first, because turns in Snap, you only play 6 turns. So turns 1 through 3, I do everything in my power to suppress them from playing cards, which they hate. I make the cards more expensive. I make it they can't draw cards, all that blue crap. And
your prison deck.
Prison deck, yes. But then the next part this is the best part, is that I have a summon deck, and it summons in locations that I'm not at. So people are like, oh, I'm going to go after, I put all my cards in one location. They put all their cards there. And then my cards then manifest in other locations, and then I win because they weren't protecting them. And they have no idea what just happened. It is very hard to play. It's impossible to counter.
It is.
It's really
it's on my list of things that when I have time, which I never do, but if I did have time,
it's such a good deck. If people want to play me, I will be happily play. But I play tournaments and I crush in these tournaments because
a lot of my
people don't know what's coming.
A lot of Magic people who were basically play Magic, but then they were playing Storybook Brawler. Now basically play Marvel Snap. Now that
I've never seen anyone play this deck. I've seen close variations, but they're not. And I fine-tuned this deck over thousands and thousands of plays, and but this way, when it goes off, I love when a deck goes off. When a deck goes off, forget it. You can just watch it and just sit there. You can skip the animations, but I can have I can go on for 2 or 3 minutes of the animations of my deck destroying your deck, and they're like skip, and I was like, oh, I want to see it unfold and just destroy them. It takes so long. It's great. Anyways,
I will be on tomorrow on my channel with Mark, next week with Steven, and I look forward to seeing you all there.
All right, I gotta go. See everyone.
Peace out, everybody. Bye.